Hi, welcome to this Corbettmaths video. In this video, we're going to go through the video solutions to the Corbettmaths practice questions on solving equations and solving equations that involve cross multiplication. If you need any extra help in this topic, if you go to Corbettmaths and go to the videos and worksheets section and scroll down to video number 112, there's a dedicated video tutorial there that goes through cross multiplication. Alternatively, you could scan this QR code. But in this video, we're going to focus on the video solutions to the practice questions, so let's get started. Okay, let's have a look at question number 1. So question number 1, it says solve x over 5 equals 3 over 2. So to solve this equation, as we talked about in the video tutorial, so if you went back to video 112 and watched that video, and as I talked about in that video, you could use a method called cross multiplication to solve equations like this. Now, if I want to use cross multiplication, remember the technique is you take the numerator and multiply it by the other denominator. So we'll take this numerator and times it by this denominator, and we'll put that equal to what we get when we take the other numerator and multiply by the other denominator. So in other words, x times 2, now x times 2 is 2x, will be equal to then 3 times 5, and 3 times 5 is equal to 15. And then you could divide both sides of the equation by 2, and if you divide both sides of the equation by 2, what do we get? So on the left hand side we had 2x, we divided by 2 to get rid of the times by 2, so we'd just be left with x. And on the right hand side we had 15, we're dividing it by 2, so that's equal to 7.5, or you could leave as a fraction 15 over 2, and that's it, x is equal to 7.5. So that method of cross multiplication can be really useful whenever you've got a fraction equaling another fraction. So here, rather than timesing both sides of the equation by 5 and timesing both sides of the equation by 2, we can just times the numerator by the other denominator and put it equal to the other numerator times the other denominator, and then you can solve that, and then that just helps you solve these equations a little bit more easily. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 2. So question number 2 says solve w over 4 equals 7 times. So again, let's use cross multiplication to solve this because we've got a fraction equaling another fraction. So this numerator times that denominator, well, w times 10 will be 10w, will be equal to this numerator times that denominator. So 7 times 4 is equal to 28. So we get 10w equals 28. And now we don't want this multiplied by 10, so we can just divide by 10 and divide by 10. And 10w divided by 10 would just be w, and 28 divided by 10 would be 2.8. So w equals 2.8. And that's it, we've solved that equation. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 3. So question number 3, we've been asked to solve 2w over 3 equals 4 ninths. So here we've got a fraction equaling another fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator, 2w times 9 would be 18w, because 9 lots of 2w would be 18w. And then we could do this numerator times that denominator, 4 times 3 is equal to 12, so that equals 12. So 18w equals 12. Now we can divide both sides of the equation by 18. So divide by 18 and divide by 18 to get rid of the times by 18. So on the left hand side, 18w divided by 18 would just be w. And on the right hand side, we've got 12 divided by 18. I'm going to write it as a fraction as 12 over 18 because that's just 12 divided by 18. And now I'm going to cancel down that fraction, 12 18ths. They're both divisible by 6, so divide the numerator by 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2, and then 18 divided by 6 is 3, so that's equal to 2/3. So w equals 2/3, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 4. Okay, so question number 4, we've been asked to solve x plus 4 over 2 equals 11x over 6. So again, we've got a fraction equaling another fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So we're going to multiply this numerator by that denominator. So x plus 4 times 6, well, we could times both of these by 6, or we could use brackets. I'm going to use brackets here. So 6 times this, we could just write 6 and then in brackets x plus 4, just putting that in a bracket. And that just means we're timesing this by 6. And that equals 11x times 2. Well, 11x times 2 would be 22x. And now we just need to solve this equation. So let's expand the brackets here on this left hand side. 6 times x is 6x. And 6 times 4 would be plus 24, and that equals 22. And just to mention here, if you just times this numerator by 6, 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times 4 is 24. So you could have just gone from this cross multiplication straight to this line here. Now we want to solve this equation, so we want to bring all the x's to one side and all the numbers to the other. So let's get rid of the lowest number of x's, so this 6x, let's take it away from both sides of the equation. So let's take away 6x and take away 6x. So on the left hand side we had 6x plus 24. If we take away 6x, we'd just be left with 24. On the right hand side of the equation we had 22x. We're taking away 6x, so we'll be left with 16x. This means 16 times x. We don't want this times by 16, so we're now going to divide by 16 and divide by 16. And when we divide both sides of the equation by 16, what do we get? So 24 divided by 16 would be 24 over 16. I'm just going to go down a little bit here. That'll be 24 over 16, just writing as a fraction. And 16x divided by 16, we're dividing by 16 to get rid of the times by 16, so we'll just be left with x. So x equals 24 sixteenths. Now this can be cancelled down, 24 sixteenths. Both the numerator and denominator are divisible by 8. So 24 divided by 8 is equal to 3, and 16 divided by 8 is equal to 2. So x is equal to 3 halves. So x is equal to 3 halves, or you could have written x is equal to 1.5. Either one of those would be totally fine. And that's it. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 5. So question number 5, we've been asked to solve 2x plus 1 all over 5 equals x minus 2 all over 2. So again, we're going to use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator equals that numerator times that denominator. So let's times this numerator by 2. So we could write 2 brackets 2x plus 1 like so, or you could just multiply each of those terms by 2 to get 4x plus 2, and we'll see that's what we get when we expand our brackets. And that equals, and then this multiplied by 5, so this numerator times 5, so 5, and then in brackets x minus 2. Now let's expand our brackets. 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times 1 is 2, and that's what you get if you multiply each of these terms on the numerator by 2. Then if we expand these brackets, 5 times x is 5x, minus, and then 5 times 2 is equal to 10. So that means on the right hand side of the equation we've got 5x minus 10, and that's what we get if we multiply both of these terms by 5. So multiplying these terms on the numerator by 5. Now let's solve this equation. So we've got 4x plus 2 equals 5x minus 10. So let's get rid of the lowest number of x's from both sides of the equation. So let's get rid of 4x from both sides of the equation. So let's take away 4x and take away 4x. So on the left hand side we'll be left with 2, and on the right hand side 5x take away 4x is just x, and then we've still got our minus 10. Okay, we're nearly there. We just need to get rid of this minus 10, so let's add 10 to both sides of the equation. So 2 plus 10 is equal to 12, and on the right hand side of the equation we'd just be left with x, so x equals 12, and that's it. And I just want to mention we can check our answers. 2 times 12 is equal to 24, plus 1 is 25, and divided by 5 is equal to 5. And 12 take away 2 is 10, divided by 2 is 5, so we get 5 equals 5, so that's right, so x is equal to 12. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 6. So question number 6, we've been asked to solve 3x minus 2 all over 5 is equal to 2x plus 7 all over 4. So again, let's multiply this numerator by that denominator and put that equal to that numerator times that denominator. So 4, and then in brackets 3x minus 2. So we're just multiplying this numerator by that denominator. And again, you could just multiply them and get 12x minus 8 if you wanted to. And that's what we'll get whenever we expand our brackets. And then that's equal to, and then this numerator times that denominator. So that's going to be 5, and then in brackets 2x plus 7. Now let's expand our brackets. 4 times 3x is 12x, and then we've got minus, and 4 times 2 is equal to 8. And then the right hand side of the equation, 5 times 2x is 10x, and 5 times 7 is plus 35. And as you can see, that's what you get when you multiply the terms in this numerator by 4, 12x minus 8, and the terms on this numerator by 5, so that'd be 10x plus 35. Now let's solve this equation. So let's get rid of the 10x. So let's take away 10x's from both sides of the equation. We're taking away 10 of the x's, so 12x's take away 10x's is 2x's, and then we've still got minus 8. And on the right hand side of the equation we had 10x plus 35. We're taking away the 10x, so we'll just be left with 35. Okay, we're almost there. Let's solve this equation. So if we wanted to solve this equation, we would want to get rid of this minus 8. So let's add 8 to both sides of the equation. So 2x minus 8, we're adding 8 to get rid of the minus 8, so we'll just be left with 2x. And then the right hand side of the equation, we've got 35 plus 8, that's equal to 44. So we've got the 2x is equal to 44. If we divide both sides of the equation by 2, we're going to get that x is equal to 22. And that's it, x is equal to 22. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 7. So question number 7, we've been asked to solve a third of, and then in brackets, w plus 4, close brackets, equals a half of, and then in brackets, 5 minus 2w. One way to approach it would be to consider if you're doing a third of something and then a half of something, what you could do is you could choose a number that you could divide by 3 and by 2 and times the whole equation through by that. So I could times the whole equation through by 6 perhaps, because you can do a third of 6 is 2 and a half of 6 is 3, so you can just multiply that whole equation through by 6 or by 12 or 18 or something like that. But actually what I'm going to do is, because we're dealing with cross multiplication here, it says a third of w plus 4. Now if we would do a third of something, we're dividing it by 3. So I'm going to write this in a different way. I'm going to write it as w plus 4, and then I'm going to write over 3, because whenever you divide something by 3, it's the same as finding a third of it. And this one here, I'm going to again put the bracket on the numerator, 5 minus 2w, but we're doing a half of it, so I'm going to divide it by 2. So now this looks just like the other ones, and we've got an equation with a fraction equaling a fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator will equal this numerator times that denominator. So w plus 4 times 2, I'm just going to times each of the terms by 2, so w times 2 is 2w, and then 4 times 2 would be plus 8, so just multiplying this numerator by 2, and now I'm going to multiply this numerator by 3, so timesing everything by 3 here, that would be 5 times 3 is equal to 15, and minus 2w times 3 would be minus 6w. And that's it. So we've times this numerator by 2 and this numerator by 3, and we've put them equal to each other. Now we just need to solve this equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6w to both sides of the equation to get rid of this minus 6w. I like to get rid of the lowest number of w's. So here I'm going to add 6w and add 6w. 2w's plus 6w's is 8w's. We've still got the plus 8, and then that equals 15. And we've added 6w to get rid of that minus 6w. Okay, now we want to get rid of this 8, so let's take away 8 from both sides of the equation. So on the left hand side we'll be left with 8w, and then that equals, and 15 take away 8 is 7, so 8w equals 7. And now we just need to divide by 8, so I'm just going to go up here. 8w equals 7, 8 times w is equal to 7, so let's divide both sides of the equation by 8, so divide by 8 and divide by 8. So on the left hand side we'll be left with w, and on the right hand side we've got 7 divided by 8, that's 7 eighths, and that's it. So w equals 7 eighths. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 8. So question number 8, we've been asked to solve x minus 5 over x plus 7 equals 2/3. So again, we've got a fraction equaling another fraction. So let's do cross multiplication. This numerator times that denominator will be equal to that numerator times that denominator. Okay, so we're going to multiply x minus 5 by 3. So I'm going to use brackets in this one. So 3 and then brackets x minus 5. Just showing that I'm multiplying the 3 by x minus 5. Just putting it in a bracket and putting the 3 in front of it like so. And then that equals. And then we're going to times that numerator by that denominator. So we've got 2 and then in brackets x plus 7. And again, that just means 2 times x plus 7. Now, if we want to solve this equation, we can just expand our brackets. So 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times minus 5 would be minus 15 equals. 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times 7 will be plus 14. Okay, so we've now got 3x minus 15 equals 2x plus 14. So we've got x's on both sides of the equation. So let's get the lowest number of x's, which is 2x, and get rid of those. So let's take away 2x's and take away 2x's from both sides of the equation. 3x minus 2x is just 1x, or x, so x, and then we've still got our minus 15. And that equals, on the other side of the equation, we had 2x plus 14. We're taking away 2x's, so we'd just be left with 14. So we're almost there. We've got x minus 15 equals 14. Let's get rid of this minus 15 by adding 15 to both sides of the equation. So if we add 15 to the left hand side of the equation, we'll be left with x. And then the right hand side of the equation, we had 14. Add 15, that's equal to 29. So x is equal to 29. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 9. Okay, question number 9, we've been asked to solve 7 minus x over 7 minus 9x equals 5/3. So again, we've got a fraction equaling another fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator would be equal to this numerator times that denominator. So 7 minus x times 3, well, I'm going to just write it in brackets 3, and then in brackets 7 minus x. And then that equals, and then we've got this numerator times that denominator, so we've got 5, and then in brackets 7 minus 9x. Okay, so we've now got our equation where we've got no denominators, that's fantastic. So now let's expand our brackets. 3 times 7 is 21, and then 3 times minus x will be minus 3x, and that equals 5 times 7, that's 35, and then 5 times minus 9x, that'll be minus 45x. Okay, so we've now got to this stage. Now we want to solve this equation, so we want to get rid of the lowest number of x's. So we've got minus 3x's and minus 45x's. So minus 45x's is a lower number of x's than minus 3x's. So this is the lowest number of x's. So we want to get rid of it. So to get rid of minus 45x's, we're going to add 45x's to both sides of the equation. So we'll add 45x's to the left-hand side, and we'll add 45x's to the right-hand side of the equation. So on the left hand side of the equation, we had 21, so still 21, just a number, and then we've got minus 3x's plus 45x's. Well, if you had minus 3 and you add 45, you get 42, so it'll be plus 42x's. And then the right hand side of the equation, we had 35 minus 45x. We're adding 45x's, so that'll just leave us with 35. Okay, now we want to solve this equation, so we want to get rid of the 21. Actually, I'm just going to write it up here. 21 plus 42x equals 35. We want to get the x's on their own, so let's get rid of the 21. So let's take away 21 and take away 21. On the left-hand side of the equation, we're taking away 21 to get rid of the 21, so we're left with 42x. And on the right-hand side of the equation, we had 35. Taking away 21 will leave us with 14. Okay, we're nearly there. We just need to solve this now. So we just need to divide both sides of the equation by 42 because we don't want this times by 42 here. So divide by 42 and divide by 42. So on the left-hand side of the equation, we're dividing by 42 to get rid of the times by 42. So we'll be left with x. And then the right-hand side of the equation, we've got 14 divided by 42. So that's 14 over 42. And then we just need to cancel it down. It's a calculator question, so you can just type it into your calculator, 14 over 42, and press equals, and you'll get a third. Or you could divide both the numerator and denominator here by 14, and so you get 1/3. Or you can half it to get 7 over 21, and then divide by 7 to get 1/3. But the answer will be x equals 1/3. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 10. So question number 10, we've been asked to solve 7 over 8 minus 3x equals 2 over 2x plus 9. So again, we're going to use cross multiplication because we've got a fraction equaling another fraction. So this numerator times that denominator would be 7, and then in brackets 2x plus 9, close brackets, just timesing the numerator by the denominator there. Then that's going to equal this numerator times that denominator. So it's going to be 2, and then in brackets 8 minus 3x. So we just times that numerator by that denominator, and that numerator by that denominator, and put them equal to each other. Now let's expand our brackets. 7 times 2x is 14x. And then 7 times 9 would be plus 63. So we just expanded those brackets, times in what's inside the bracket by 7. Now we're going to expand these brackets. So 2 times 8 will be 16. And 2 times minus 3x would be minus 6x. So we've expanded our brackets. Now we need to solve the equation. So let's have a look here. So we've got x's on both sides of the equation. So let's get rid of the lowest number of x's. So we've got 14x's and minus 6x's. So minus 6x's is the lowest number of x's. So let's add 6x's to both sides of the equation to get rid of the minus 6x's. So let's add 6x's. So 14x's plus 6x's is 20x's. And then we've still got our plus 63, and that equals, and on the right-hand side of the equation, we're adding 6x's to get rid of the minus 6x's, so we'd just be left with 16. Okay, so that's fantastic. We've now just got x's on one side of the equation. So now we want to just get the x's on their own here on the left-hand side, so let's get rid of the 63. So let's take away 63 and take away 63. So on the left-hand side, we had 20x plus 63. We're taking away 63 to get rid of the plus 63, so we're left with 20x's. And then the right-hand side of the equation, we've got 16 minus 63. And it's a calculator question, so you can just take our calculator and do 16 minus 63, and you get that's equal to minus 47. So we've got 20x equals minus 47. And this is fantastic. I'm just going to write up here, 20x equals minus 47. So here we've got 20 times x. We don't want this times by 20, so let's divide the left-hand side of the equation by 20 and the right-hand side of the equation by 20. So 20x divided by 20 would just be x. And then the right-hand side of the equation, we're going to do minus 47 divided by 20. And it's a calculator question, so you can just type that into your calculator, minus 47 divided by 20. And when we do that, we get an answer of, for my calculator to actually come up as minus 47 over 20. And it's actually fine to leave your answer like that x equals minus 47/20. That's totally fine. And also, if you wanted to write it as a decimal number, you could just convert that to a decimal. It says that x is equal to minus 2.35. So x is equal to minus 2.35. And that's it. We've solved that equation. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 11. Okay, question number 11. Question number 11, we've been asked to solve x plus 1 over 3 equals 1 over x minus 1. So again, we've got a fraction equal another fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator, let's write that out, that numerator, x plus 1, times that denominator, x minus 1, will equal that numerator times that denominator. Well, that's just 1 times 3, which is 3. Okay, so we've done cross multiplication. That numerator times that denominator is equal to that numerator times that denominator. Now let's expand our brackets. X times x is x squared. X times minus 1 will be minus 1x, or just minus x. We just write minus x rather than minus 1x. 1 times x would be plus 1x, or just plus x. And then 1 times minus 1 would be minus 1, because a positive times a negative is a negative, and 1 times 1 is 1, so the answer would be negative 1 there. And that equals 3. Now here we can see that these two terms, minus x plus x, so if you've got minus x and you add an x, you get 0. 0 x's, or just 0. So I'm going to write then x squared minus 1, because these two add together to be 0. And that equals 3. So this is fantastic. Now at this point, there's a couple of approaches that we could use here. To solve this equation, what you could do is you could add 1 to both sides to get, if you add 1 to both sides, so you're going to get on the left hand side, x squared. And on the right hand side, 3 plus 1 is equal to 4. So we've got x squared is equal to 4. So we want to consider what do you square to get 4? Well, x would be equal to, well, it could be 2, because 2 squared is equal to 4. Or it could be negative 2, because the negative 2 times the negative 2 is equal to 4. So x would be equal to plus or minus 2, because x would be equal to 2, or x would be equal to negative 2. And that's it. Now, one thing I just want to point out is here, whenever we had x squared minus 1 equals 3, and we're at this stage here, rather than bringing the numbers to the other side, what you could have done is actually take away 3 from both sides. So take away 3 and take away 3, because when you've got an equation with a quadratic, so something squared, it's quite useful to have it equal 0. So let's get rid of the 3. So on the left-hand side, you'd have x squared. We had minus 1 take away 3, that's minus 4, because minus 1 take away number 3 would be minus 4, and that equals 3 take away 3 is equal to 0. And now you would factorize it, so you do bracket, 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 bracket equals 0, because this is a quadratic, and it factorizes because it's called the difference between two squared. So we've got x squared and minus 4, and 4 is a square number. So to factorize this, and watch video, I believe it's 120 in Corbettmaths, you'd factorize this by square rooting them both, so x and 2 and x and 2, and you put a plus sign in one bracket and a minus sign in another. And if you expanded those brackets, you'd get x squared minus 4. And that means if you wanted to solve this equation, the either bracket equals 0, so here the x is equal to negative 2, or x would be equal to 2. And there are your answers, that either x is equal to 2 or x is equal to negative 2. And again, you can check that. If you take your 2 and you do 2 plus 1, that's equal to 3, and 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1, so the left-hand side is equal to 1. If x is equal to 2, you've got 1 divided by x minus 1, well 2 minus 1 is equal to 1, so you got 1 divided by 1, which is 1. So you get 1 equals 1. So that works for 2, so that definitely works. If x is equal to negative 2, you're going to get negative 2 plus 1, that's a negative 1, divided by 3, that's a negative a third. And if x is equal to negative 2 on this side, you get 1 divided by negative 2 take away 1, which is negative 3. So you got 1 divided by negative 3, which is also equal to negative a third. So that works as well. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 12. So question number 12, we've been asked to solve 2 over 7x minus 1 equals x plus 3 over 12. So again, we've got a fraction and an equal in another fraction, so we can use cross multiplication. So that's that numerator times that denominator will equal this numerator times that denominator. So 2 times 12 is 24. And that will equal this numerator times that denominator. I'm just going to put them in brackets, x plus 3, and then in brackets 7x minus 1. That means that bracket times that bracket, or that numerator times that denominator. So 24 equals x times 7x, that's 7x squared. X times minus 1, that's minus x. 3 times 7x, which is plus 21x. And then 3 times minus 1, that's going to be minus 3. And then if we simplify these x's here, we're going to have 24 equals 7x squared. And then we've got minus x, or minus 1x, plus 21x, that'll be 20x. So plus 20x, and then we've still got our minus 3. Don't forget the x, minus 3. Now, we want it to equal 0 because it's a quadratic, and if it equals 0, that's great because we can hopefully factorize it or use the quadratic formula. I'm hoping we can factorize this one. So let's take away 24 away from both sides of the equation. So on the left-hand side, we'll be left with 0. On the right-hand side, we're going to have 7x squared. We've got plus 20x, and then we've got minus 3, take away 24, so that's minus 27. Okay, so that's fantastic. We've now got an equation, or quadratic, equaling 0. So let's see if it factorizes. So 0 equals, and then bracket, 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 bracket. With it being 7x squared, that's quite nice. Hopefully it'll be 7x and an x. Now we want to find two numbers that times together to be minus 27, and then whenever we put them in the brackets and expand the brackets, we're going to get the 20x in the middle. So I'm thinking that we're going to be using maybe a 27 and a minus 1, or a minus 27 and 1. I'll try those options first and then see if they work. So I think I'm going to put the 1 over here and the 27 here, because 27 times x would be 27x, and 7x times 1 is 7x's. We want to get 20x, so I'm thinking if I make this one negative and this one positive, would that work? Let's just check. 7x times x is 7x squared, great. 7x times minus 1 would be minus 7x's. And then plus 27x would be plus 20x's, perfect. And then we've got our minus 27 on there, and that works, fantastic. So here, now let's get our solutions, because we've got these two brackets timesing together to be 0. So if we want to make this bracket 0, x would be equal to 1, so that'll be one solution. Or in terms of this bracket, whenever it's got something like 7x plus a number, I'm going to write 7x plus 27 equals 0. I'm going to put the bracket equals 0 and solve this equation. So I'm going to take away 27 from both sides to get 7x equals minus 27. And then I'm going to divide by 7 to get x is equal to minus 27 over 7. And that's it. There are two solutions. The x is equal to 1, or x is equal to minus 27 sevenths. And that's it. So we've solved that equation. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 13. And as you can see, these algebraic fractions are getting a wee bit trickier, where we've got x's on all the numerators and denominators. So we've been asked to solve x plus 4 over 2x minus 1 equals 3x minus 2 over x plus 2. So again, we've got a fractional equal another fraction, so let's use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator will equal this numerator times that denominator. So x plus 4, so x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 2 will equal, and then this numerator, which is 3x minus 2 multiplied by 2x minus 1. So that's fantastic. So we've got this numerator times that denominator, yep, equals that numerator times that denominator, yep. I'm just going to make sure I haven't sort of accidentally changed the plus sign to a minus sign or something like that. No. Sometimes that happens whenever marking students' work. Sometimes I notice that they accidentally put instead of it being 2x minus 1, they write 2x plus 1. And then they've done all the questions and they wonder why they haven't got the right answer. And something as trivial as just accidentally changing one of the signs. Okay, now let's expand our brackets. X times x, so x times x is x squared. X times 2 would be plus 2x. 4 times x would be plus 4x. And then 4 times 2 would be plus 8. Okay, now that's equal to, now let's expand these brackets. 3x times 2x, that's 6x squared. 3x times minus 1, that's going to be minus 3x. Minus 2 times 2x would be minus 4x. And then minus 2 times minus 1, well, negative times a negative is a positive, and then 2 times 1 is 2, so that's 2. Okay, now let's simplify these. The left-hand side, we've got x squared. These terms in the middle, they simplify. 2x plus 4x is 6x, so plus 6x. And then we've got our plus 8. And that will equal, if we have a look here, we've got our 6x squared. We've now got minus 3x minus 4x. If you've got minus 3 and you take away another 4, that'll be minus 7. So it's going to be minus 7x. And then we've got our plus 2 on the end. Okay, so we've now expanded our brackets and simplified. So here we've got quadratics on both sides of the equation, so it'd be quite useful if we made it equal 0. So I'm thinking here, because we've got 6x squared and x squared, I'm thinking let's make the left-hand side of the equation equal 0. So let's do that. So let's take away x squared from both sides of the equation. So if we do that, we'll get on the left-hand side 6x plus 8, and then equals, and then 6x squared take away 1x squared is 5x squared minus 7x plus 2. Now let's get rid of the 6x here, so let's take away 6x and take away 6x. So we're going to get on the left hand side, 8 equals 5x squared. Minus 7x's take away 6x's would be minus 13x's, and then plus 2. And then finally we want it to equal 0, so let's take away 8 and take away 8. So we're going to get 0 on the left hand side will equal 5x squared minus 13x. And then we've got 2 take away 8, that'll be minus 6. So this is fantastic. I'm just going to write up here 0 equals 5x squared minus 13x minus 6. Okay, so we've now got this quadratic equation and it equals 0, which is great. Well, it's a calculator question. I'm hoping this will factorize, so let's try it. 0 equals, then bracket, 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 bracket. And then we've got 5x squared, so let's go for 5x and x. So we've got those at the front of both brackets because 5x times x is 5x squared. Now we want to think of two numbers to go in the brackets here. The times together to be minus 6. And whenever we expand the brackets, we get minus 13x. So I'm thinking perhaps we put a 3 here to get 15x's, minus 15x's. If we make it a minus 3, 5 times minus 3 is minus 15x's. And then if we put a plus 2 here, would that work? So 5x times x is 5x squared, yes. 5x times minus 3 would be minus 15x's. And then 2 times x is 2x. And if you're at minus 15x's and you go up 2x's, you get to minus 13x's. Perfect. And then 2 times minus 3 would be minus 6. So this is fantastic. We're factorized. Now we know it equals 0. So this bracket times this bracket equals 0. So let's make each of the brackets equal 0. So this bracket's quite straightforward. X equals 3. That's one solution. Or in terms of this bracket, we've got 5x plus 2. Let's make it equal 0. So 5x plus 2 equals 0. If we take away 2 from both sides of the equation, we get that 5x equals minus 2. And then if we divide by 5, we get x equals minus 2/5 or minus 0.4. So that's it, that x equals minus 2/5 or x equals 3. And that's it, we've solved that equation. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 14. So question number 14, we've been asked to solve 2x plus 9 over 3 plus x equals 3 minus x over x plus 1. And again, it's a calculator question, but I can tell you now that we will be able to factorize this one. Whenever we're solving it, we will be able to factorize it and get our solutions that way. I actually thought it would be a bit unfair to actually give it as a quadratic formula question as well. But if you did get one that said perhaps solve this and said give your answers to 2 decimal places, then that's a big hint that you'd be using the quadratic formula. Okay, so here, let's solve this. So we've got a fraction equal another fraction. So let's use cross multiplication. So this numerator times that denominator equals this numerator times that denominator. So 2x plus 9, so 2x plus 9 multiplied by x plus 1 will equal, and then this numerator, which is 3 minus x times 3 plus x, so 3 plus x. Okay, so that's fantastic. We've now got rid of our denominators. We've got this numerator times that denominator equals that numerator times that denominator. Now let's expand the brackets. 2x times x would be 2x squared. 2x times 1 would be plus 2x. 9 times x would be plus 9x. And then 9 times 1 would be equal to 9, so plus 9. And that means actually if we just simplify this, we get 2x squared plus 11x plus 9. So we've expanded our brackets on the left hand side and simplified. Now if we do the right hand side, so let's expand the brackets. 3 times 3 is equal to 9, so 9. 3 times x would be plus 3x. Minus x times 3 would be minus 3x. And then finally minus x times x would be minus x squared. And then if we simplify this, 3x take away 3x is 0, so these terms in the middle, they cancel out, so we'll be left with 9 minus x squared. Okay, so this is fantastic, and we've now got to this stage with quadratics on both sides of the equation. So let's actually make a quadratic equaling 0 here. So let's get the right hand side to equal 0. So I'm going to add x squared to both sides of the equation to get rid of that minus x squared. So the left hand side would become 3x squared plus 11x plus 9, just adding 1x squared to the 2x squared. And then we added x squared to get rid of that minus x squared, so that equals 9. Okay, this is quite nice here because actually now we can get rid of this 9 by taking away 9 and taking away 9. So the left hand side will just become, if I just scroll down a little bit, 3x squared plus 11x, just taking away 9 from that left hand side. And then that will be equal 0. So just taking away 9 from both sides will give us 3x squared plus 11x equals 0. Now we want to solve this. Now this is quite nice. We can actually solve this using basic factorization. We can take an x out here. So x and then in brackets, and if we take an x out, we'll be left with 3x and then plus 11. Because both of these terms, you can take an x out and you'll be left with 3x plus 11. And just check it. X times 3x is 3x squared, and x times 11 is plus 11x. And that equals 0. So we've got x times this equals 0. So that means that either x equals 0 or, and then this bracket equals 0. So you write 3x plus 11 equals 0. Just going to give us a bit more room. So let's take away 11 from both sides to get 3x equals minus 11, and then divide by 3 to get the x is equal to minus 11 thirds. And that's it. So either x equals 0 or x equals minus 11 thirds. And that's it. And that's it. So these have been the video solutions to the Corbettmaths Practice Questions on solving equations using cross multiplication. Now, as I mentioned in the video tutorial, you don't necessarily need to use cross multiplication, but it can just be quite a useful technique and speed up some of your equations solving whenever you've got a fraction equaling another fraction. So if you want to go through that video tutorial going through cross multiplication, you can scan this QR code or go to video 112 on Corbettmaths to get that extra help on cross multiplication. But that's it. So in this video, we went through the video solutions to the practice questions. I really hope you found this video useful. And if you have found it useful, please like it and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.